All right, welcome everybody to okay, so a lot of webinars in the past, we talk about satisfaction, but today or tonight, wherever you are, we're going to go beyond satisfaction. And we are going to talk about how to leverage technology for proactive customer success. And who better to talk about these subjects or the topics than three amazing panelists joining us tonight. We have Samantha Samuhin, working on that last name, from Upflow, Celine Dumar from Vitally, and Mr. Elliot Fox from Simplesat. Very excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. So before we jump in here, let's just make sure everyone knows who's showing up tonight. I'll go first for what is Simplesat or who is Simplesat or whatever, but Simplesat is a customer feedback management tool, which means that we have these surveys to collect feedback and analytics to provide insights and turn that feedback into action and integrate it all with your own stack. Simplesat, we have all of the top satisfaction metrics and delivery methods to help you ask the right question at the right place at the right time. And then again, all the analytics for you to make sense of that data. So that's kind of just the high level overview of Simplesat. Celine, maybe you can give a quick overview of Vitally.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vitally is a leading customer success platform that supports B2B SaaS companies all over the world. It consolidates all of your customer data in one collaborative platform, and it's all backed by really powerful automations. This is a little history about Vitally, but we're a Series B company and have raised about $40 million total, and we've won some really great awards on G2. So check us out there.
Impressive. All right, Samantha.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I work for Upflow, a B2B company that helps companies unlock their own cash reserves with cutting-edge AR technology. We're basically here to revolutionize how B2B payments are made. A little bit about us. We are a Series A company, and we work with some great companies, and we have also some really lovely awards on G2. Feel free to check us out.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This webinar is being recorded, and if you want to get the slides as well, just scan this QR code with your phone. It's going to open up email and email our head of growth, Eric. That's going to be Eric. How about you put your email in the chat? If it doesn't work on your phone for any reason, you're just going to be asking him for that. And anyone who registered will send you an email after this with the recording and everything as well. And one more thing. Okay, so this webinar will be recorded, and use the chat to drop with questions. You don't need to worry about the Q&A. I think we just like the chat because that's easier for everyone to see. We can answer them at the end, or if it's timely, we can just do it in the middle of the session. So just don't really worry about holding questions. Just ask them, and I'll try to have our panelists answer them at the right time. And if you stay to the end, which I know you will, then Celine will present a bonus 5-minute customer success process builder that Vitally has provided. So that's a goodie if you stay to the end. Okay, raise your hand. Do we have a question from Laya? I think no. Okay, I'm going to move on. All right, first topic here for questions is building a customer-centric culture. And question for all panelists. So feel free to jump in. I guess whoever has the answer to this first, or we could talk about it a little bit. Can you share an example of how your company has successfully embedded customer-centric values within your teams, and what has the impact been on your business?
I can start with this one. I think given that Vitally is a customer success platform, it's kind of embedded in our culture to be very customer centric. Like we are constantly thinking about the customer experience. And I think all of that really like starts with leadership and trickles down. It's really like an amazing culture to be a part of. To share like a very simple, but I think helpful example is just like visibility across the organization on what our customers think and what their feedback is on our product and what we're doing. We have NPS, just like probably a lot of folks do. And that every single NPS score goes directly into a Slack channel that everybody in the company is a part of. And even just having that visibility gives every single team at Vitally an idea of what our customers actually think. That channel is very active. Like people are always commenting on the different NPSs and kind of like brainstorming and tagging people where it's relevant. So that is one example of something that's really helped build a customer-centric culture. We're always thinking about the customer and trying to like iterate on what the customer needs are. So yeah, Slack's a great tool for visibility.
+1 for sending the feedback to Slack. That's a great one.
Yeah, +2 as well. It's really great. At Upflow, we also have a Love Wall Slack channel where we not only share great like NPS, but also really great feedback that we're getting from our merchants, whether they're on calls that the CSMs may have with them. And so we tag the relevant teams, and we're really seeing that for departments that are not customer facing, like product engineering, we're seeing a really big engagement for them. And this really reflects on the roadmap as well, and how the roadmap is built and the kind of relationship that products and engineering are having with customer facing teams.
And Elliot, I've got a question specifically for you, so you don't have to worry about jumping in on that one. We're moving on.
Okay.
Unless, Elliot, you want to talk about that.
Oh, I was just going to say
Okay,
that
sorry.
In terms of customer-centric values that we've used for our customer success team, it's all about being more proactive. So in providing values upfront to clients, so keeping an eye on their account, knowing what's going on with their account in terms of like support processes or how they're using our software, so that when we do engage clients in conversation or have meetings with them, they can be productive because we already have an idea of what's going on. We're making sure that we can provide value up front.
Right on. All right, and everyone in the audience, put it in the chat too what you're doing, so we can see what everyone else is doing as well. I'm really curious to see that. So we're going to move on though. This next one's for Elliot at Simplesat. So given Simplesat's focus on simplicity and gaining actionable feedback, how do you ensure that these principles are reflected in your internal culture and customer interactions?
So I think to start from the basics, you gotta make sure that you hire the right people that also fit in with your company culture. I think that's the most important first step, is make sure you get the right people in the right places. You train them the right way to engage with your company culture, and to make sure that your company values are embedded and reiterated. And again, the emphasis on value and not strictly speaking on revenue or increasing revenue. Don't make every conversation self-serving, but make sure we're actually providing customer value and increasing customer success through interactions with customers. And yeah, having feedback data on hand and highly visible definitely helps and aids with that process.
Mm-hmm. Right on. All right, next question. So Vitally emphasizes proactive customer success. How has this philosophy shaped your own company culture, and how do you maintain this focus as you're rapidly scaling?
Yeah, I think so, because we are obviously, again, customer success platform really helps with creating that like customer-centric culture. But that really embeds itself in the way that everyone kind of thinks about what to do next. We are trying to create a platform that allows CSMs to be proactive rather than reactive. And so the way like the entire company thinks is like, what does that look like? How, like, what are our customers thinking? How can we level our customers up? And by thinking that way, we're really like the entire company is leveling itself up. And I think there's a couple things here in terms of how we kind of maintain this proactive attitude while we scale. This is a big thing right now. Everybody is doing more with less, but we still want to really provide our customers with super valuable interactions and a lot of value. And so that's where technology kind of comes in. We drink our own Kool-Aid, as they say, but we use Vitally to help us really focus on what we need to focus on. And that is kind of like the proactive stuff, and make sure that as we scale, we still have time to do those things. So we're really looking at strategies on, how do we make sure that like CSMs still have time to be that proactive strategic resource. That's where our customers are getting the value. So that's really what we're focused on. So every interaction, especially with CSMs, like needs to be a valuable interaction. So yeah, we're really focused on being efficient so that we can maintain that proactiveness with our customers.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
I love that. And I completely agree. I think that's, the big shift that we're seeing with a lot of companies, and that, we're trying to enable at Simplesat as well, is that shift from, is our support or our processes, are they reactive, or can we get out in front of that issue before needing that client interaction? Like needing them to take that step of engagement, either to reaching out to their CSM for something once it's become too big of an issue, or even reaching out and engaging with our support process. But behind the scenes, usually there's a way that we can become aware of those issues even sooner, and also engage those clients that aren't taking that step to reach out, right? Because so many people, they're not going to put in that extra effort. They're just going to give up if they experience an error, or something breaks, or something unexpected happens, or if there's confusion. So really important to get a handle on the data and try to proactively reach out and help your clients succeed with your software instead of fighting against it.
Yeah, definitely. Data is key to being able to go above and beyond.
Right on. Okay, next question. For Upflow here. So considering Upflow's role in improving cash flow through better payment experiences, how do you foster a culture that prioritizes customer success in financial operations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So failed or late payments are generally much more than only a financial impact. It's really part of the global customer relationships. So for example, if you're investing, as CSM, you invest so much of your time in making sure that the customer not only achieve but overachieve their goals with your product. By investing so much of your time, if your customer doesn't pay you, you're pretty much working, for no money. And so issues in payments are often the really visible tip of the iceberg for CS, and we really need to act on a more global and holistic relationship with the customer. And this is where Upflow comes in, by allowing CSM to review the financial health of their portfolio of accounts and seeing from their customers, how much effort does it take you as a company to collect, payments that are due. So, and what we're seeing is that the reason why involving CSMs is so important is because they're likely to know any underlying issue with the customer, if any, because they have quarterly business meetings, they have like regular conversations with them. So if there is an underlying issue, such as the main point of contact left the company, the CSMs will have this information, not the finance team. So by allowing this big, collaborative part between CS team and finance teams, you're really able to bring in this customer success mindset into another department.
That's a good point. Elliot, our head of CS, he's doing a lot of work in Stripe with, finance transactions and helping out with that. It's a lot better than just forwarding to a finance team or something to take care of it if the CSM can do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sorry. I was just going to say, we started doing something similar, not similar, but our head of finance often involves like the CSM team before she communicates with the customer. So there does need to be a lot of collaboration, because to your point, CSMs, they know what's going on. They know the tea. They know the ins and outs of their customers. So, we're a very helpful resource internally.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's definitely a resource that should be leveraged, right?
Yeah. Better customer experience overall.
I think that's a point of a lot of friction with within companies as well, is like whenever there's a handoff to a different team or department or to different company process, that's where things tend to get opaque, and the ball can get dropped unless there's somebody who's taking ownership of that customer and actually making sure the process gets completed. There's no issues or holdups, and able to communicate that with the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, the source of truth in terms of like where the contacts are stored can be different depending on which team updates the contact. So for instance, if you're using Salesforce, like your sales or customer success team will usually tend to update the contacts over there, because then it will flow into like the CRM, like Vitally, for example, but it may not be connected to the billing tool. And so your finance team therefore cannot reach out to the right contacts over there.
Great. Okay. Next question. I think this is a really good question that a lot of people have. And this is for all panelists, by the way. What strategies do you employ to encourage all employees, not just customer success team, to adopt a customer first mindset?
That's
I think
a
there's
great
a lot
question.
of there's a lot of CEOs out there just like banging their heads against the wall. Like, how do I get my company to do this? So how do we do it?
I think, listening to your customers is really key. And so making sure that your customer success teams share that, clearly explains the why behind every need is really important. Sharing this information with the right stakeholders and bringing product teams or even like head of products into interviews with your customers to really understand their pain points and make sure that, essentially all the efforts that the rest of the company puts into making, the mission work continues to be on the right path as, time goes.
Yeah, I kind of think you can go at it from two sides, and it's almost necessary to make sure like the entire company is so customer centric or has a customer first mindset. I completely echo what you said, Sam. Definitely leveraging the CSM to provide visibility to the rest of the company is really, really important. The why is also really important. I thought of that as well. Like every single team needs to be thinking about the why behind why we're doing something, and it's all ultimately for the customer. So like everything should tie back to the customer experience. But I think also like it's not just coming from like the CSM making sure there's visibility, but it needs to come from leadership as well. And leadership needs to support that perspective is really important. And I think, especially at Vitally, like it starts from leadership, and it trickles down not just to the leaders of every team, but I think what's important is kind of making sure that customer-centric mindset is felt throughout the customer lifecycle, including sales. Like your sales team needs to be thinking about the customer experience. Is this the right fit? This kind of goes back to what Elliot said, but it's not just about like our bottom line and making sure we close deals, but it's making sure we're the right fit for that customer and making sure that that's what our sales team is kind of their mindset is. And the customers can really feel that from the very beginning of the relationship. Like, hey, this has been such a great experience. So having that, not just from like the CSM, sharing that visibility, but leadership down across every single team so the customer can feel it throughout the entire life cycle, is super important. And I'll give like one example too, I think, of something that is really helpful. During like all hands, for example, I will share an example of something that I've been working on with my client. And it may have something to do with like an internal customer success initiative, and maybe something to do with like a new product that we just released, and sharing how that impacted the customer with the entire company is really, really helpful in just, again, providing as much visibility as possible to like everybody at the company. Here's the impact of what we're doing, and here's why it matters to be so customer centric and to always be thinking about the customer.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think, you know, you got to share customer stories with the rest of the company and ways to make those customer interactions more visible. Internally, some tools that Simplesat uses, the Slack feedback notification channel that was mentioned earlier. It's a great way to get that customer visibility. Other cross collaboration tools like Notion or Basecamp, everyone's there posting, you know, customer notes or like sales demo notes. It just gives that much more, you know, customer visibility to the non-customer facing teams. Recently, one of a novel approach from a vendor of ours also. They reached out and they invited me to do like a meeting with them and to talk with their company as a whole about like how we're using their products. I think that was a really cool way to, you know, get customer insight and actually have the customer meet some of those non-customer facing teams as well. So that's another idea.
Excellent. Excellent answers. I just learned a lot. Okay, we're moving on. Idiot. All right, we're moving on here. Next topic here, leveraging technology and customer success. And I'm actually going to stop sharing so we can see everyone's beautiful faces while we answer these next questions. Okay, for all panelists, in what ways has technology transformed your approach to customer success? And what do you believe is the next big tech innovation in this space?
Yeah, I can start. You go ahead, Sam.
Sorry, Celine. In terms of the next big tech innovation, it's already here, obviously, but I think, you know, CSMs should definitely leverage AI. There is so much time that can be saved for this. I was just reading earlier a LinkedIn post from Daphne Costa-Lopez, the director of CS at HubSpot, who was just talking about it and basically explained how we could use it to get behavioral alerts for customers at risk, and, you know, save like up to 50%, like get 50% of our time back. Like, you know, CSM's days are really, really busy between meetings and, you know, upsells if you do them, onboardings, you know, whatever responsibilities you have as part of the customer journey. There's never a dull day. And so the idea of being able to get 50% of this time back to be more strategic and just, you know, cross collaborate with other people at your team is just really incredible.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I'm sure that's like it's on everybody's minds right now. AI is everywhere. So yeah, and I definitely think with AI, it's also about doing it thoughtfully. Like what can we do with AI that's gonna have like the biggest impact? Let's not just like ads, when I'm speaking to Vitally specifically, of course, like content is helpful and like pre-populating an email might be helpful, but like what else can we do? Like, what are the cooler, more impactful things that we can do that are really going to allow more efficiency in a CSM's day? Like what you mentioned, like surfacing insights that are, hey, this email came in, the customer seems really annoyed, or whatever it might be. Like doing things that are a little bit more elevated and thoughtful, I think is going to be really key as we sort of get into this AI era. So
yeah,
to see
I think we can even like, you know, picture this idea of AI as it predicting, you know, possible churns or upsell opportunities or behavior based off previous data. I think this could be really, really useful for customer success in the future. Really powerful.
Yeah, and I do think it will pair very well with like a customer success platform. All of the data is in there. And so we can create automations, obviously, that like surface proactive insights. Like there's a lot we can do. AI can really augment what we can do, especially with all of that consolidated data. It's so valuable.
That's how I would like to see AI being used more instead of like obviously the customer facing chatbots. One of the most common use cases we see AI now. I'm a bit more interested though in how it can enable that proactive support approach, getting ahead of issues, knowing about things that happen before the customer alerts you, how AI can enable that and do it intelligently to save us time, because obviously everybody's busy. We're all trying to do more with less resources.
Okay, so it's AI, not blockchain anymore. Okay, next question for all panelists here. Another one. So what challenges have you faced in integrating new technologies into your customer success strategies, and how have you overcome them?
I think one of the biggest thing in integrating technology is just like adoption. Like, are we enabling the team the right way? Do we have the right technology? Like, it even starts from there. Is this the right technology? Have we set it up the right way? And then are we enabling the team properly? If we don't have those things to begin with, like, it's not going to be an effective technology. So I think ensuring that you're set up correctly, you have the why behind why you have it, and you have buy-in from the team that's going to use it, like, that makes a successful technology implementation. And without that, you're kind of working backwards if you don't start off well. You kind of have to, work backwards and try to change people's minds after the fact, which is really difficult, as a lot of us probably know.
I want to say for Simplesat, sorry, Sam.
No, you can.
For Simplesat, one challenge for us in integrating new technologies has always been, with some of the data that's generated as a result. Speaking to what Celine had said, if you don't have a clear plan when you're getting set up, it could easily lead to generating a lot of data that's not actually useful, or duplicate data, and then you're creating more work for yourself, things that you have to clean up or organize, or things that obscure rather than giving you more customer insight, and just end up eating up your time with the data cleanup and everything. It's definitely been a big challenge for us with implementing some new tools, is how do we manage data, because these days it's so easy to get data syncing between different tools and get it flowing over, but how are you actually leveraging that data, and is the data useful, is it accurate?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Elliot. Like, making sure that the data is clean and how it's going to flow into the new technology that you're going to implement. Like, do you have the right data at the right place in order to make sure that you can really use it and get the ROI from day one, basically, is really important. So that comes with a deep understanding of your exact needs, and really understand, like, why do you need to invest so much time into this new technology, and what obstacles is it going to solve for you?
Yeah, you guys touched on two very good points. Not a lot, but we have, and I'm sure you all experience this as well, but I often see customers like sign on, and then they realize that their data isn't like quite in order. And so they end up spending a ton of time doing cleanup instead of like implementing this new platform. So having clean data from the start, or understanding your data structure, is really important when you're implementing a new technology.
Yeah, and I think having a clear ownership as well, understanding who is the owner of what task, is something really important as well, because we all know that implementing a new tool or a new technology is something that can take some time. And so understanding that you have a clear timeline of the implementation of this new technology makes sure that, make sure that you have the right owners for this setup, whether it's cleaning the data or setting up the platform, whatever it is that people need to be involved in, is definitely something that I think people tend to underestimate as well.
All right, right on. All right, we have a question from the audience. Back to AI, which is a really good question. Which AI tool do you recommend? Because that's a really great question, because everyone's like, AI is going to change your lives, but it's like, how? Or like, where do I go? Or, Or are we just predicting that AI is going to come and change everything?
have-
We don't know yet.
I'll shout out one tool. I will preface this by saying I haven't personally used it, but I was with someone last night who said their team just started using it and it's like really awesome, and they have buy-in not just from like CS but from like other teams. It's called Update AI. But from what she told me, it has like really awesome dashboards. I think basically what it does, it sounds kind of like Gong, but it basically records all of your calls and then surfaces like insights from those calls. Which, yeah, sounds like the Gong AI summary, but the way that it's taking a step, like the way that it's leveling up is like the reporting and the dashboards that it provides. Like it'll give you like, here is what we're hearing about the product. Here is what we're hearing about X, Y, and Z. So it's not just like, hey, here's like the summary and your next steps. It's like, hey, based on all of your call data, like here's this is what we're finding that your customers are saying. So yeah, again, I haven't used it personally, but I've heard from someone that is using it that it's been like really awesome.
Yeah, similar tool I can recommend. Specific AI tools that Simplesat is using. We use Fathom AI for same purpose. It records, it does video transcripts. It, highlights the key points and auto generates highlights and pain points and use cases, and also kind of grades the CSM on how they did on the call, how much were they talking, those kinds of things. So we can easily kind of roll up call performance stats for our teams, and then we share that on Basecamp, so everyone gets the call summary and can see that customer interaction. And obviously, of course, ChatGPT for any content generation needs or helping draft emails.
For any thinking that I just outsource.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
basically
like
is our CEO at this point.
Yeah, use ChatGPT for like a complaint email to an airline or something like that.
Exactly.
Totally customer success.
I really
right.
like Gong's AI as well.
Okay, cool. What is that
yeah.
one? How do I spell that?
Gong, G-O-N-G, Gong's AI.
Okay.
They have like an AI
didn't know that
module
one.
from their platform, and it's just really great to get next steps and a nice little recap of any calls that you're having with your merchants. I find this to be really helpful in like time saving and making sure that nothing falls through the cracks.
Yeah, we use Gong too. We love it. And it syncs back to Vitally, of course.
Yes.
Which is cool. Yeah.
Cool. Learn something new. All right. So I think we could talk about AI all day here. We got to move on. Okay. I haven't said this yet. What key metrics, this next, okay, let me center myself here. Measuring success. Yeah, here we go. All right. What key metrics do you prioritize in measuring the effectiveness of your customer success initiatives? Basically, how do you know if a new change has any impact? How are you measuring that? That's for everybody.
Totally dependent on what the initiative is. I think whenever we decide what we're working on, like we'll have quarterly initiatives or whatever it might be. At that time, we decide like how we're going to measure each one. So if we're doing a new type of customer engagement, we decide like, okay, we want the outcome of this to be that like customers adopt our platform better or whatever it might be. Like we determine those metrics up front. Sometimes it's product based, sometimes it's like related to the number of calls a customer is having with us. Sometimes it is related to like our expansion or retention targets. So yeah, everything is a little bit different depending on what the initiative is, but I would say a lot of it is like revenue numbers, product usage or adoption. And of course it varies from initiative to initiative, but like high level, a lot of times that's what our initiatives are related to.
Yeah, same. Just wanted to say, yeah, pretty much product adoption and yeah, revenue is what kind of we focus on the CS team.
I think we're all the same on this.
Okay.
How much revenue can you get I think what's really important here is, on top of like knowing the key metrics, it's really analyzing the data that you previously got to make sure that those metrics are attainable. You know, even though they should be challenging, and they're not unattainable, which I think, you know, really helps in motivating the team as well to get that challenge and achieve, you know, the different initiatives that you do.
Yeah. It's important to have both, right? You shouldn't just have revenue increasing without also seeing, you know, increased value or adoption on the client
Yeah.
side. Otherwise, there's not value behind it. It's more likely to churn.
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right. This one's for you, Celine. So using Vitaly's analytics features, how do you advise clients to measure and enhance customer engagement over time?
Yeah, I think there's like two things that go into this. And probably a lot of teams do similar things, but one is like product data, super, super important to understanding like how customers are using Vitaly, and also really important or using any platform, but how customers are using your platform, and then being able to use that data to then create additional engagements with customers. Maybe you send an automated email, or and send them some other sort of collateral, or set up a call with them, whatever it might be. Like, you really need that product data to be like more effective and more efficient. And then the other piece of that is like logging everything. Like, if you're not logging all of your calls, it's really hard to understand like what the impact is of having a QBR with the customer, or like having recurring meetings with the customer. And so a lot of customers want to know, like, hey, we want to, you know, make sure that we're having like the right types of engagements. And it's like, okay, well, are you logging all of your engagements in Vitaly? Because if you're not, it's going to be really hard to measure it. So one is making sure everything is logged in one place. And then the second one is getting your product data. And then once you have that, you can look at the results of what you're doing. Like, you can measure the impact of whatever those engagements are, and then iterate on your process from there. So first step is have the data, start logging it, and it can take time to do that too. So like, it might take time to start to gather data, but once you have that in there and it's like second nature for everybody, iterating on that process is the next step. So it's constantly evolving. You're probably not going to have the right like customer engagement set up right from the start, but get something set up, and then you can measure, evolve, iterate from there. The key again is like really measuring the impact. That's ultimately what you want to do, making sure that what you're doing is achieving what you set out to do.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Thank you. Asking another one. So asking one for all panelists. I'm not even sure how I would answer this right off the bat. Maybe you guys have something ready. How do you balance quantitative data with qualitative feedback in assessing customer success? And can you share a success story where the balance made a difference?
Yeah, I can.
You're on a
talk to
roll,
this.
Celine.
Yeah, I'm on a roll. Sorry, guys, I'm blabbering over here. But I think it's super, super important to have a balance here. Like, you cannot just rely on one or the other. If you are only relying on product data, like, you may not know that like the customer is looking at other platforms. Just because they're using the platform and like their usage looks good and everyone's logging in every day, like, they still need a platform to do what your platform does. So that cannot be the only thing you look at. You need to also be having conversations with the customer to understand, like, and maybe not just conversations, but leveraging NPS, other survey responses to understand, like, how do they actually feel? Do they like the platform? Like, what is their general sentiment? To understand, like, if they are generally like a happy customer and if they're going to renew. So I think like just using one or just using the other is not a good idea. If you're only using qualitative data, then maybe you only have one person's opinion. And so, yeah, the balance of that is really, really important. And I will share one example, kind of like related to health score. I think all of these different types of data points can go into health score. But if you like, we added something specific to our health score very simple, but very effective. Just a question like, would you renew? I'm sure a lot of customer success teams ask their customers this, like, if you were to renew today, would you? Yes or no? Very, very easy way to get a gauge on how the customer sentiment is. That is like a much more straightforward thing to do than guess or just assume based on product data. So adding that has been really, really helpful, and also a good way to force people to ask that question, because we're all scared to ask that question.
It's a really direct question.
Yeah, exactly.
There's how likely are you to recommend, and there's how likely are you to buy right now? Yeah. Or to continue. That is great.
Yeah, that's a great
Elliot
point.
or Sam?
I think you can also measure this with the different project that your customer success teams are working on, and the sort of like the different data that you get out of it. So for instance, here at Upflow, we recently updated the QBR presentations that we're doing to make sure that the data is more digestible, but also to really show the ROI that our merchants get from our products, for them to really see, you know, that our tool is a must-have, and for them to get another like aha moment. And so what we've seen with these new presentations is that we not only get, you know, customers to join and participate more in business reviews, but also the renewals so far, you know, allow us to drive bigger upsells, because throughout, you know, the customer journey, they manage to show how great, you know, the product is. And so we found that this was a good way to balance, you know, both the quantitative and qualitative data.
I just want to say anecdotally for me, like the quantitative data kind of provides a background and trends, but the qualitative data is where, you know, the heart and the feelings are, and the emotions, and how you can actually get, you know, a good read on what the customer is thinking. So I definitely like to, you know, review qualitative notes more, and then to look, you know, at the quantitative, like Celine said, to get an overall, you know, to see where the trends are going, and see how everyone is kind of engaging those people that you don't have qualitative data for, right? And you can extrapolate out with some of the qualitative sentiments if they fit the same kind of customer profile.
So that was a great question. Okay, thanks. Great answers. Any questions about that for our really quiet audience here today?
Yeah, any questions you guys have on customer success, feel free to throw them in the chat. We can
our only question was from an anonymous person, so I can't even give you a prize. But we're gonna move on. Am I sharing? I'm not sharing. Okay, I don't think I need to yet, because we're just gonna ask one last question, maybe two, but one last topic here. General question. Okay. What should CS folks stop, if anything, doing in 2024?
Customer support. You know, I think, you know, in a lot of cases, I speak to a lot of CS folks, and they all tell me that they spend 20 to 30% of their time answering to customer support queries, when really our role is to be really strategic and develop these relationships and help, you know, our customers like increase the lifetime value, and help our customers, you know, achieve their goals and the reason why they bought the product. So customer success folks, please share your customer support tickets with your customer success team, with the customer support team.
Great.
I love that you said that, because I basically wrote the same thing. I said, see it basically like customer success needs to stop doing everything and like focus on providing strategic value to their customers. Like, don't have a call that is to answer how-to questions with a customer that the customer can get answers from your support team. Like, that is not a valuable way to spend your time. You want to help everybody. You want to answer those questions. You know the answer to those questions, but that's what the support team is there for. Like, that is their role. They're there to support you in answering those kinds of questions so that you can really provide value to the customer. And that's ultimately what's going to make sure that they're like getting the most out of the platform.
If you don't have anything, Elliot, we got more questions.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel mixed about that. I feel at the same time you have to balance it with, you know, providing upfront value, and you know, if I ask somebody, you know, something on a meeting and they direct me to somebody else, they do like the handoff game, and often that's where the ball gets dropped, and then, you know, I give up. This process is too complicated for you guys, too complicated for me. I'm gonna, you know, figure it out on my own, basically. So I'd say
Yeah.
if you pass it off to support, make sure, you know, you're still aware of what's going on in case you need to follow up or rescue that situation. Or to provide training, you know, if you know how to do it and the support person didn't, or if they provided a weak answer, you should be, you know, the accountability factor. You should have ownership over that customer relationship and how your company is interfacing with the customer.
Yeah, I think the relationship between customer success and customer support is really important. And I definitely think CSM should know which customers of theirs are reaching out to support, what are the reasons why, is it a recurring topic or not? Because in that case, you may need to get on the call with them to either like train them on a specific feature that they keep asking about, or there is like a bigger question behind that. Maybe they're not using it properly, maybe it that, like, you know, the feature is missing something that you should forward to your product team. Maybe there's a different use case and you should really understand the why behind that. So it's definitely important.
Yeah, and even passing it off to support, like as a CSM, make support's job a little bit easier and make the customer experience better by saying, hey, support, like my customer asked this, here's all the context, like here's what they need, and just have a good handoff that way. And that really like makes sure that the handoff is hopefully like no balls dropped, the context is there, and support can ideally take it from there. But yeah.
Great. We have a question from Maggie in the audience. What are some ways that we can try to automate note-taking, specifically from calls or other manual tasks? And I think that's a really great question. We post all of our demo notes and support call notes in Basecamp, and I know that that's it can take a lot of time to write up those notes. And we've, like Elliot shared, Fathom, the AI tool that we're using that automates the transcript or the note summary. But I noticed that our sales team stopped doing any type of manual notes and just using the automated part. And it wasn't as insightful for me as wasn't as useful. But at the same time, I'm asking our team to spend more time, you know, just typing out notes. So I do think that's a great question of how do you balance that of sharing all this information, but not having it just take up so much time.
I don't think the answer is to avoid all manual tasks necessarily. A lot of times automation can, you know, introduce new problems or like you said, less, you know, meaningful content. It's less digested, less, you know, less introspection going on, or less keen insight offered by the robots. One example of a manual tool or something that facilitates this kind of manual insight collection that we use that we didn't talk about is a product board for, you know, support conversations or new feature requests that come in. We're able to tag those as features, and they, you know, flow into this system that's specifically for tracking all feature requests and sharing that with the rest of the company through, you know, their Slack integration or through other ways of providing people access to that platform so they can see just the insights from those very manual, very qualitative support conversations usually.
Yeah, I think having that balance is really important. We use both. I manually type all my call notes for the things that Gong doesn't get, because Gong doesn't get everything sometimes. Like they have nice, pretty summaries, but it's like they discuss the weather, and it's like that's not really that important. We don't need to know that they discuss the weather.
They discussed audio and video issues at the beginning of the Zoom call. That's
yeah.
How every transcript starts. Yeah.
Exactly. So like, I do think it's really important to have a balance. Like you can't fully automate it. Like Elliot said, like there are just some things like the robots are not going to get. So having both, is really helpful. Like having the Gong summary is nice with my notes that I took manually that are getting the things that Gong didn't quite pick up.
Yeah, and I think there's also the question as to like, what are the manual tasks that you want to automate, or, you know, and how much time will you be saving from them? It's really understanding what's the most painful, basically. What are the most painful manual tasks that you or your team is doing at the moment that you could automate, and what are the tools that will allow you to do that as well?
Absolutely. Hope that answered your question, Maggie. Okay, we're going to do one more, unless anyone else has a question. In the next like 3 seconds, I'm going to ask one more question, last question that we had prepared. Looking ahead, how do you envision the role of customer success evolving over the next 5 years? And what should companies start doing now to prepare for those changes?
My response is kind of related to what I said previously in terms of what CSM should stop doing. But I think this like do more with less mindset is like kind of already prevalent everywhere. And what that means is like CSMs really need to be focused on outcomes. And what that means is every interaction that a CSM is having is like super valuable, insightful, strategic. And the other things that CSMs may be doing right now, like support or like recording a video to show a new product feature, like all of those things, I think can be supported by other teams at a company. So like marketing can really create really great enablement that is much prettier than what a CSM is probably currently doing or can do. Support is like a much better resource to answer those how-to questions. We have a really great support team. I rely on them very heavily, but really enabling like CS by creating a really strong teams around them to give them those things that are like repeatable, is I think going to be really key.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think that, as you know, our businesses and the role of customer success and the definition of customer success really evolves constantly. I think that making sure that you continue learning on a regular basis is really important. And so I think that companies should really dedicate, you know, and encourage their customer success teams to grow. And so this comes from making sure that you can, you know, have the time to attend a CS webinar, for example, or, you know, allowing you to, you know, graduate from a like specific course, or get like, you know, some learning and development budget to get some, there's some really great, you know, CS books out there that I've personally learned a great deal from. And so making sure that you understand what are the upcoming challenges that customer success will face will allow you to, you know, come up with a different mindset and make sure that you're aware of the trends, and therefore will share them with your C-suite, who can then, you know, predict them and make sure that your CS team has all the tools that it needs to face these challenges.
Yeah, right on. Elliot, if you had an answer, I'm not going to let you answer it because we have to move on. I'm going to launch a poll. Maybe you can answer this in a second, but I got to get this poll up. One moment. And we have something from the Q&A too. Hold on. Now I'm getting all flustered. Google Chrome. All right. Okay. So first, foremost, let's launch this poll here. Where's the poll? Oh, where's the poll? I don't even know where the stop sharing. Polls, quizzes. Okay. All right, here we go. Asking a few questions here. We just need to know this so we can make future webinars as informative and helpful as possible. So how much did you get out of today's session? How would you like us to help you after the webinar? So you can ask for demos or tours from our companies. And would you like to sign up for the next webinar? So I will leave that poll up for a second. And real quick, Celine, could you talk about this bonus?
Yes, this is like we created this just a couple weeks ago. It's pretty cool actually. What it is helpful for is for early stage CS teams who aren't really sure like where to start in terms of how to start building your team and your processes. So basically what this process builder will do is like ask you a couple of questions about your company, your KPIs, et cetera. I think there's like 8 questions or something like that. It'll ask you about your product and how you're priced, and then we'll give you some recommendations on processes that you should focus on, and how to build them. So it'll just give you like the goal with this is just, you know, giving you a sense of where you should start based on what kind of business you have. So like 8 questions, it'll pop out some recommendations. So check it out. It's pretty cool.
Excellent. Thank you. There was a question, I think, Sam, you started answering it to Q&A about which books
Yeah.
you recommend.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
say, first of all, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I would recommend that to all support or customer-facing people. But what would you guys recommend?
Yeah, so on top of the 2 books that I mentioned, there's another one that I'm currently reading and that I find really, really interesting. It's called Farm, Don't Hunt. And this is just really interesting in terms of making sure that you can predict churn and deliver even bigger ROI from like a really, really like the first week of onboarding your customers. I thought that was super interesting.
Any other books? If you think of them, then we'll share them sometime. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Thank you, panelists. You were really great. I learned a lot. Hope everyone in the audience did as well. If you are interested in a Vitally tour, scan this QR code if you want to book a demo with Simplesat. Scan this. Again, thank you, everybody, so much. We will share the recording once we have it, and we hope to see you again next time.